this guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lake.
Today, Conservatives have tabled a motion in this House that the Liberal government finally put forward a fiscally responsible budget. This Prime Minister says that he wants to be held to account based on what Canadians are paying for their groceries. But instead of putting forward a budget or bringing down grocery prices, he's introduced $500 billion in what we can only assume is more inflationary spending, with Canadians expected to pay an additional $800 in groceries this year over what they paid last year. Our ask is very simple for this Liberal government after 10 years of their inflationary spending.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, there will be a budget in the fall of this year, but you know what's a bit rich for Canadians watching at home is to see these Conservatives who have consistently, at every step of the way, voted against affordability measure. Mr. Speaker, they voted against childcare. They voted against pharmacare. They voted against the dental program we have in Canada. Mr. Speaker, how can you stand up in this House seriously and criticize this government where at every step of the way you fail Canadians to have their back in times of needs?
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lake.
Conservatives have consistently voted against all of the inflationary spending and their half measures that would see those savings vaporized by their continued inflationary spending, and we'll keep voting against it unless we see a responsible budget from this government for once. Moms and dads, small businesses, single Canadian seniors, they all have to table a budget. They have to live by a budget. So why is it that these Liberals, while food prices are going through the roof and moms are having to water down the milk that they give to their babies, these Liberals won't just table a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that when we have a choice, we will always side with them, Mr. Speaker. We have sided with children in this country to make sure that it would have a national food program. We have sided with our seniors to make sure there would be a dental program in this country. We have sided with young families, Mr. Speaker, to make sure there will be childcare. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we will always side on the side of Canadians, whether they're young, whether they're seniors, whether they're workers. Canadians, we have their back. That's what we said. That's what we'll do, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Barrie South, Innisfil.
Well, food prices up has replaced elbows up at grocery stores lately as food inflation has tripled in the past 2 months. It's so bad now that even sale items are too expensive for Canadian families, and you'll be lucky, Mr. Speaker, if you walk out of a grocery store with 2 bags for less than $80. Inflationary spending must be reversed so Canadians can afford to put food on the table. Will the Liberals present a budget to show that they are at least trying to bring food prices down?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this new government is a government of action, and this is what action looks like. We're rapidly advancing legislation to cut tax for 22 million people, cut the tax on first home purchases, and permanently cut the consumer carbon tax. I hope, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives will cut the rhetoric and join us in advancing this legislation. Thank you.
The honourable member for Barrie South, Innisfil.
Well, the Prime Minister said that he should be judged by the prices at the grocery store, so let's do that. Food inflation has tripled in the past 2 months. Canadian families will pay $800 more on food this year than last year. So there goes their tax cut. That's about $17,000 on food alone this year. Families, single moms, and seniors are at a breaking point, and this can't go on. Do the Liberals not see that their inflationary spending is doing to families, or do they just not care? Why won't the Prime Minister table a budget and show the true cost of his inflationary deficits and debts?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's look at some economic facts. Inflation is down from 8.1 to 1.7% over the last 2 years. Workforce participation is 65.3% compared to the U.S. at 62.5%. We have a AAA credit rating from Moody's. Mr. Speaker, the fundamentals of our economy are strong, and we're going to continue to build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you.
The honourable member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro, Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal government, the cost of groceries and food prices continue to skyrocket. This year alone, the cost of apples is up 19%. Beef strip loin is up 34%. White rice is up 14%, and infant formula is up 9%. We know this Liberal government's deficit spending drives inflation and leads to higher prices at the grocery store. Will the minority Liberal government table a budget that reverses this inflationary spending so Canadians can afford to put food on their table?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, child poverty is down 38% since 2015, and overall 26% in the general population 18 to 65, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, the party opposite could help by not voting against things that make it better for Canadians, like things like the Canada Child Benefit or dental care or the school food program or supports for apprentices. Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, the Conservative Party stands in the way of families.
The honourable member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro, Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said he wants to be held accountable for what Canadians pay at the grocery store. This year, Canadians are spending $800 more on groceries, and the Barrie Food Bank is now supporting upwards of 7,000 people per month, 37% of which are children. Instead of offering relief and a real fiscal plan, this Prime Minister is spending $500 billion without telling Canadians where the revenue is coming from. When will this Prime Minister table a budget that fights inflation so that Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, a tax cut for 22 million Canadians is exactly the kind of support that Canadians are asking for. And that's why they elected us, Mr. Speaker, because they know that when things are difficult for Canadians, that they can count on the Liberal government to be there for them, whether it's to help raise healthy children, make sure their kids get a good breakfast in the morning, or make sure that they too can afford childcare so that they can continue to grow and earn great livings across this country. Mr. Speaker, we'll be there for Canadians.
The honourable member for Ponoka, Didsbury.
Mr. Speaker, it's official. This new Liberal Prime Minister refuses to present a spring budget, even though Canadians have been without one for over a year. But in that time, students have had budgets, families have budgets, small businesses have budgets, towns and cities have budgets, provinces and territories all have budgets, banks have budgets. Pretty sure Brookfield's got a budget. So why doesn't this government have a budget? The last guy thought that budgets balance themselves. Does the new guy think that budgets just draft and table themselves?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
And Mr. Speaker, he failed to mention one, and Canada will have a budget in the fall, Mr. Speaker, of this year. That's one thing that he forgot to mention to Canadian. But you know what is responsible to do, Mr. Speaker, is the first thing we did when we came to this House was to lower tax for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's something that they failed to mention. That's the type of thing that Canadians at home are watching, and they know with our motion and them voting for the bill, Mr. Speaker, by July 1st, their tax will come down. That's what Canadians expect. That's what we deliver.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians from Field, BC and the Rockies to the ranchlands of Kamloops tell me that family budgets are being destroyed by Liberal inflationary spending. The Prime Minister wants to be held to account by what Canadians pay at the grocery store. Today we're debating our Conservative motion calling for a budget as soon as possible. Will this Liberal government table a budget and reverse their inflationary spending so that Canadians can afford to put food on the table?
The Honourable Secretary of State?
For seniors.
Seniors, that's what I figured. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to rise in this House for the first time as the member for Esquimalt Saanich Sioux. Mr. Speaker, this government is doing important work to ensure that we are protecting vulnerable Canadians, including vulnerable seniors, and that's why we continue to stand up for seniors. We're restoring eligibility to age 65 with the Old Age Security Program, and this is an important step to defend vulnerable seniors from falling into poverty. This policy also helps to protect low-income seniors who depend heavily on OAS and GIS.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake Eastman.
After the lost Liberal decade by Justin Trudeau and company, our military is gutted and Canada has been left weaker, poorer, and defenceless. For 10 years, these Liberals failed to take our national defence and security seriously, instead relying on our allies to defend Canada's sovereignty. The Canadian Armed Forces is facing a devastating recruitment crisis and does not have enough soldiers, sailors, and aircrew, and only half of our military equipment is serviceable. Why should Canadians believe this Prime Minister will fix what his Liberals have already broken?
The Honourable Minister for Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, today is a good day for Canada. This morning, the Prime Minister announced a $9.3 billion investment in Canada's defence, which means we will achieve NATO's 2% target this fiscal year. This is the largest investment in defence since the end of the Second World War. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you on this side of the House, we're thankful to those who serve, past and present.
Honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, nobody believes them. After 10 years of these Liberals, our warships are rusting out, our fighter jets are worn out, and our troops are burnt out. Today, the Canadian Armed Forces is short 13,000 troops due to those Liberals' recruitment and retention crisis, and an additional 10,000 personnel are undertrained and undeployable. Over the past decade, the Liberals lapsed $12 billion in defence spending and cut $2.7 billion over the last year from the military. Why would our troops leave anything this Liberal government says, since the Liberals are responsible for breaking our military?
The Honourable Minister for Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, today is a great day for Canada, for our allies and our partners around the world are watching. I find it surprising that the Conservatives want to talk about supporting and equipping forces when they're the ones who cut Canada's defence spending to below 1%. On this side of the House, Canada's new government is investing now to re-equip, rebuild, and bolster our armed forces and our defence industrial capacity. We will ensure Canada remains strong, sovereign, and secure.
Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
The Liberals are hiding the state of Canada's finances from Canadians. The so-called brilliant banker who said his strength was planning isn't planning on actually producing a budget for Canadians. Meanwhile, 1 million Ontarians used a food bank last year, a terrible new record, and unemployment in the GTA has now surged to almost 9%. Guess what? No budget. How bad are the state of Canada's finances that the so-called brilliant planner isn't planning to produce a budget for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, we increased CCB, we delivered $10 a day daycare, we put in place a national school food program, federal minimum wage was increased, dental care, pharma care. All of these programs have reduced child poverty by 38% since 2015, seniors poverty down by 30% since 2015. All these things the Conservatives have voted against.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
We voted against all the policies that led to 1 million Ontarians using a food bank. They should all be ashamed of themselves that that's their performance. Meanwhile, TD Bank has now said up to 100,000 Canadians will lose their job this year. And guess what? They refuse to produce a budget. 20% bankruptcies in Canada have surged 20%. Guess what? They're not going to produce a budget. I ask again, what is so terrible about the state of Canada's finances that the so-called brilliant planner is refusing to produce a budget for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to talk about this list again because I think it's so important. We increased the CCB, delivered $10 daycare, put in place a national school food program, federal minimum wage has been increased, dental care, pharmacare. All these programs have reduced poverty in all age groups. These are the things that Conservatives voted against.
The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Well, that's a record stuck on skip, Mr. Speaker. But Canadians are now facing the consequences of this Liberal government's economic drift. Oxford Economics says that Canada is heading into a recession with 200,000 more job losses and unemployment reaching 7.7% this year. Full-time workers are turning to food banks in record numbers, and mortgage defaults are rising. Meanwhile, the Liberal government wants to spend a record $500 billion with no plan. Will the Prime Minister show some accountability to the Canadians who are going to be losing their jobs and do his job and table a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, a tax cut for 22 million Canadians is exactly the kind of relief that Canadians are looking for, on top of all the programs and supports for Canadians, whether they have children, whether they're seniors in low income. We expect then, with all of this concern, that we'll see support from the Conservative Party and things like our One Canadian Economy Bill, Mr. Speaker, which is going to even further enhance opportunities for Canadians to have well-paying jobs all across the country.
Honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are being crushed by the housing crisis. The Liberals' own internal documents admit that housing now eats up 52% of household income. Mortgage delinquencies are at a record high. Families can't keep up, young people can't get in, and this Liberal government will not show us a plan. Mr. Speaker, a budget is a plan. And while Canadians suffer, these Liberals refuse to present a budget that will solve the housing crisis. My question is very simple. Why?
Why? The honourable member of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, this government is committed to taking action on housing, and that's why we've rolled out the GST break for first-time home buyers, saving them $50,000 up to $1 million purchase. That's why we've rolled out a tax break for 22 million Canadians to help them afford housing. We are taking action, and we will continue to take action at a pace that I hope the members opposite will support us on.
Excellent answer.
The honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, Mr. Speaker, here's what we know now. We know now that Toronto and Vancouver are two of the most unaffordable cities in the world. We know that the cost to construct a residential building in Canada has increased by 58% in the last 5 years. We also know that this latest housing minister increased home building taxes by 141% while he was mayor of Vancouver. And we know that the TD Bank has declared that this government will not come close to their promise to build 500,000 new homes per year. Mr. Speaker, are the Liberals refusing to deliver a plan because they don't actually have a real one?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has been very clear about our plan for housing, the most ambitious plan for housing in Canadian history, and that is Build Canada Homes, that is moving forward on actions, concrete actions that will save people money.
That's right.
We are going to take action for multi-unit residential buildings that we hope the members opposite will support in the fall to increase rental supply. We are going to take action across the board, particularly on affordable housing, and we expect support in this House.
We do.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
The housing minister who increased building taxes by 141% the last time he had a chance should be aware that Oxford's Global Cities Index found that residents of Toronto spend more of their income on housing than any other city in the world. But the man in charge of housing doesn't think that's a problem. He says that housing prices shouldn't go down, period. So if he doesn't think that housing prices should go down, can he tell the residents of Toronto just how much more of their income they're going to have to spend on their homes?
Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I've got to say it's refreshing to hear the members opposite actually care about affordable housing, because they never did anything about it. That's right. That made life very difficult for mayors and premiers and housing ministers across the country that saw no support for 10 years from the members opposite in their government.
Very true.
We are taking action. We are committed to scaling up that action with Build Canada Homes and direct action in these weeks and months ahead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, forgive me if I'm I'm a bit skeptical of the housing minister who increased the price of housing by 179% in just 8 years in Vancouver. They broke housing. They fueled inflation that drove up rates. They rewarded those who blocked housing construction. They supercharged immigration numbers that outpaced the availability of housing. He says we need affordable housing. Great. But then he turns around and says that home prices shouldn't go down. Both of these things cannot be true, so which one is it?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm frankly not surprised to hear the confusion on the other side of the House when you put the words affordable and housing together.
That's right.
We're taking action on it, Mr. Speaker, and though the federal government does not control the price of housing, we want to see the overall cost of housing come down. That's why we are investing in local partnerships with cities across Canada to bring the development cost charges down for housing and deliver affordability.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
Speaker, after a lost decade of this Liberal government, housing in Toronto is unaffordable. Last week, we learned that new home sales are at a record low. Now, according to Oxford Economics, as a result of high immigration, quote, residents of Toronto spend more of their income on housing than the residents of nearly every other city in the world. You'd think that that would prompt the Liberals to present a serious plan. Instead, they want to break for the summer without a plan. Speaker, will the Prime Minister respect the will of this House and pass a budget before his summer vacation?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I really like to believe that all members of this House are sincere in their desire to make life better for Canadians, that they want to make life more affordable, that they want to get more homes built. And that is why I really hope that the members on the opposite side of the House will join us in supporting the One Canadian Economy legislation. This will help us build more homes faster. It will bring down prices for Canadians by 15% if we can remove all trade barriers in our own country.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
The Minister of Housing said he doesn't want to bring down prices for Canadians. But Speaker, Toronto residents can't afford a roof over their head. When I knocked on doors this spring, voters would tell me that they can't afford their mortgage. Or in apartments, they'd say, Roman, I can't afford my rent. It's heartbreaking. Liberal immigration policies are forcing Torontonians to spend more on their income on housing than anyone else on planet Earth. But the Prime Minister is failing Canadians and refuses to listen to this House. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister deliver a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, one of the policies the Prime Minister campaigned on was building modular housing. That is a way to get more homes built faster, and we know that by removing barriers to internal trade in our country, we can get a modular housing industry going in our country. Exactly. That is one of the solutions to the housing crisis. I hope the members opposite will be constructive and support this important legislation.
Honourable Member for York Durham.
Mr. Speaker, my generation refuses to live in a shipping container. Oxford Economics reports yesterday that Toronto's housing market ranks among the worst in the world for affordability. At the same time, mortgage delinquency rates in Toronto are higher than at any time during the pandemic. The financial burden is suffocating the next generation of homebuyers. And history has shown us, Mr. Speaker, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. A budget is a plan, Mr. Speaker, so my question to the Prime Minister is, when will Canadians see one?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I've traveled all across this country. It's a huge privilege of this job, and I visited families in every riding from every walk of life, and I can tell you that modular housing, which provides a housing solution for so many families, is not a shipping container. And to speak with such a demeaning tone about families that are living in a variety of different kinds of housing really indicates the kind of disrespect that the Conservative Party of Canada has for low-income Canadians and middle-income Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland Clark.
Mr. Speaker,
tents are not houses.
That's right.
The Prime Minister told us during the campaign that Canada was facing the biggest crisis of our lifetime. Well, here's a crisis. In 2015, housing costs were an average of 38% of Canadian household budgets. Today, it's overwhelming. It's 52%. Wow. A recent study found that Toronto residents spend more of their income on housing than nearly every other city in the world. We were told that the Prime Minister, well, he's the man with a plan. Canadians want to see it, and time is of the essence. When are we going to get a budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, maybe the member opposite should ask himself, look in the mirror, ask his colleagues why they voted against every housing initiative we put forward over the last several years. Rapid Housing Initiative, Federal Co-Investment Fund, the Housing Accelerator Fund, Mr. Speaker. Their own leader told them not to support the program while the MPs themselves were trying to advocate for it. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton, Wicked-Jwanan.
Well, Housing Accelerator, $4 billion, 0 homes built. But meanwhile, housing prices have doubled, rent has doubled, down payments have doubled, and people are now defaulting on their mortgages at record rates due to the disastrous inflationary spending of this Liberal government. A federal memo confirms that housing will consume 52% of the household budget this year, up from 38% in 2015, so they know they caused this problem. When will the government table a budget with a plan to give the hope of home ownership back to young people?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, this government is taking action on delivering affordability, and we've done that with a tax cut for 22 million Canadians.
That's true.
We've done
Good
that
point.
with a cut to the GST for first-time home buyers. We will continue to do that with actions throughout this year, and we expect the members opposite to support this. This is a new voice. Suddenly there's concern from the Conservatives who never voted for affordable housing, never supported a single initiative on affordable housing.